Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching the 6:30 Prime News live from Douala. Thanks for your kind attention and thanks for being a part of today's edition of Prime News on My Major Prime. My name is BLANCHE Peldrine. BLANCHE King, publishers and distributors of local and foreign newspapers in Cameroon have been reminded on the need to comply with legal provisions, obliging them to submit copies of their publications at the Ministry of Communications. This is contained in a release signed recently by Minister of Communications Rene Emmanuel Sadi. Darling Gonde has details in the following report.
Reading through the press release to understand the ramifications and what offenders are risking, it's been observed that most newspapers produced and published in Cameroon are not usually sent to the Ministry of Communications as the law demands. Reason why? Minister Rene Emmanuel Sadi of the Ministry of Communication is requesting the need for editors to comply with the law of December 19, 1990 on the rights to social communication.
You should recall that the Minister of Communication has many missions. One of them is observation of media to see whether people do respect the ethics and deontology.
Backed by the law, the minister invites news editors to send 2 copies of their newspapers not later than 2 hours after they are published.
More than 650 that are declared, but not all of them are published every time. So we are talking of the 120 something newspaper that at least can be seen out within a month. The obligation is very much clear. Every time you publish, if it is even once a year, you have to deposit it.
Meantime, a public register has been opened at the Private Media Development and Advertising Service of the Ministry of Communication, and the decision states that those who will not comply will be sanctioned accordingly.
The new president of the National Communication Council, Joseph Chebonken Kalabopsi, and the team are already making their impacts felt. The new NCC boss has urged journalists to be responsible and respect the ethics of the profession. 3 journalists have been sanctioned so far, and all those who breach ethics of the profession will face similar sanctions, according to the new president. Details with Nora Kakebi.
The President of the National Communications Council, Joe Chebonken Kalabopsi,
with an open heart that we work in all conviviality, that we work with all honesty, that we work with a lot of integrity, because the job we have been called upon to do requires that we serve our people and make the press a real fourth estate.
The President of the National Communications Council has equally vowed to clean up the media landscape by meting out sanctions to charlatans.
We are not here to muzzle the press, nor are we here to sanction individuals. But that doesn't mean that people who are found guilty of violating professional ethics will not be sanctioned. The law will come down in full force on those who deviate from the realities of what this noble profession calls us to, that social responsibility which we have.
3 journalists were sanctioned with suspension ranging from 1 to 6 months. The director of RIS Radio was slammed 1 month suspension for publishing offensive information against Cabral Libi, while the director of the publication of Confidence magazine was equally suspended for 6 months alongside the magazine for bearing offensive remarks against Senator Nguchingo Silves. Finally, the director of DBS TV was given a warning note, while one of the journalists was given 1 month suspension for broadcasting unsubstantial and offensive information likely to bring disrepute to the French head of state. The NCC boss hopes that with the help of the press, they will be able to combat hate speech and sensitize the public in communicating fairly.
Land disputes constitute more than 80% of court cases in Cameroon. This was disclosed by the Minister of State Property and Land Tenure, Henry Ayebe-Ayesi, during a special plenary session on land management and reforms, legal, economic, social, and political aspects at the National Assembly. Audrey Zatsa in the following report.
Gestion et réforme foncière au Cameroun, aspects juridiques, économiques, sociaux et politiques, telle était la thématique de la séance plénière spéciale hier lundi 5 mars à l'Assemblée nationale. Entre autres questions adressées, la valeur du titre foncier au Cameroun, comment assainir un secteur en proie aux différents liés à l'accaparement des terres, les députés de la nation interrogeaient les autorités compétentes.
C'est une minorité qui s'accapare des terres au Cameroun, minorité administrative, minorité des riches ou détenteurs de pouvoir économique.
Rien n'est fait, mais alors rien pour que la situation autour du foncier s'améliore.
L'équation est pourtant simple. Si mon père m'a laissé, ou mon grand-père, 50 hectares de terre, pour sortir de la pauvreté, je dois et je peux exploiter ces terres.
Réagissant aux différentes préoccupations des élus de la nation, le ministre des Domaines, du Cadastre et des Affaires foncières, Henry Ayebe-Ayesi, a reconnu que les litiges fonciers au Cameroun représentent plus de 80% des affaires aux tribunaux.
La loi prévoit que le montant maximum en ce qui concerne les terrains issus d'une détention coutumière, c'est-à-dire dans le cas des immatriculations directes, ne soit pas supérieur au prix minimum des terrains domaniaux dans la localité.
Parmi les recommandations au terme de cette plénière spéciale présidée par Kombo Berry, vice-président de l'Assemblée nationale, était la réduction des coûts des procédures, l'accélération du processus de mise en œuvre de la copropriété, la digitalisation du cadastre.
The Watchdog Award will on Saturday recognize some Cameroonians for their efforts or their outstanding contributions towards nation building. The organizer and publisher of the Watchdog Tribune Award says the 40 laureates were carefully selected through a free and fair process. Let's now have an excerpt from the organizer of the award.
Because of the context in which all of us find ourselves in our country, Cameroon, the country faced with crisis, and then we find very few patriots, of which if all of us were booming or beaming with the spirit of patriotism, I don't think we would have been in the situation where we are. Because of people, patriotism was the problem. People never have love for country for various reasons. So we're trying to encourage those who showed love for country, patriotism. That's why you see there are very few of them. Maybe after the award, many will follow, and that will be good for the peace.
Away from that, we now revisit our religious page where Pastor John Tako Ayafo and John Ayaba have been ordained pastors of the Apostolic Church in Cameroon. They were ordained recently during a significant ceremony to officially upgrade them in the presence of the national president of the Apostolic Church in Cameroon. Details with our correspondent from the Northwest region, Charles Kibwa.
Two new pastors, Reverend John Tako Ayafo and Ayaba John, were Sunday, July 4th, 2021, ordained as pastors of the Apostolic Church in Cameroon. The ordination at the Apostolic Church in Tamlung was presided at by the national president of the Apostolic Church in Cameroon, the Reverend Musomai Sunday Mbonte, bringing clergies of the Apostolic Church in Cameroon together, friends, Christians, and families of the two pastors. The grace that covered the occasion was an unusual grace.
To find the president of the Apostolic Church, finally, together with the vice president and the vice secretary general in one sitting, it only happens during our national convention.
Reading from Joshua 1 verses 1 to 9, the vice president of the Apostolic Church in Cameroon, the Reverend Samson Fonyong, guest preacher, preaching on the theme, what will help the man to be productive and successful, said the life of somebody can only be changed to practice on what they preach that reflects the true gospel. To the national president, the Reverend Mbonte, the Lord has confirmed them after 10 years of pastoring tests into his vineyard to preach the gospel. He has signed two ordained, Reverend John Ayafo and Reverend Ayaba John, to defend the truth in the bond of peace.
They will walk in defending the word of God and keeping the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. Where there is trouble today, we need people who can work for peace.
The newly ordained pastors promised to be agents of transformation.
I'm looking at raising agents of transformation and that can carry biblical gospel, healing and transforming lives into the society. By the grace of God, the assignment, what I see, the assignment is very large, and I'm believing God that He will be able to help me what I'm supposed to do.
I'm trusting God to make a threefold fullness in human beings: disciple maker, eternity conscious, relevant believers. That's my mission. God helping me, I trust and make it.
They are expected, wherever they move for ministration, people should see that the hand of God is in them.
Still in the northwest region of the country, sons and daughters of Nsongwa in Bamenda 2 subdivision have installed committee members of the Development Association. The new members have the responsibility of working closely with state and other institutions, all to ensure the development and promotion of the village. Charles Kibwa reports once more.
This is the
Sons and daughters of Nsongwa in the Bamenda 2 subdivision of the Northwest, Saturday, 3rd July 2021, at the Nsongwa Community Hall, came together under their umbrella union after conducting elections to install committee members to pilot the affairs of their village development.
We have up to 17 quarters in Nsongwa. We conduct elections, the people choose their leaders. From there, we carry the result to the palace, and the palace have to do installation.
Chaired by His Royal Highness, the Fon of Nsongwa, who installed the home branch of the Nsongwa Cultural and Development Community with Vitalis Fund as President, Nji Stanley, to the Directorate of the Nsongwa Community Hall, and Fongu Joseph lead the Quarterhead Committee, performing the installation rituals at Nsongwa. His Royal Highness Fon Fongwade III of Nsongwa informed the installed to know it's a challenge working for the people, and serving the people is like Swedish bitter. At one point, people will receive, at other point, they will castigate. The fund used the occasion to call on all his people of Nsongwa to move with their soldier high, because Nsongwa is a star village.
We sharpen all the branches so they can come in and build up a new village. We are building up the Royal Act, which will be a contribution from every Nsongwa person, especially the elites. When the Royal Act will come out, all of us will be happy people. And so everybody should contribute in one way or the other. They should know that Nsongwa has a king, and they should work to please the king for a blessing.
To the president of the Quarterhead Committee, his huge experience in life will help him execute the new task.
With the desire that I should help rebuild Nsongwa administratively, developmentally, economically, I accepted the challenge, as they have accepted.
Nsongwa, with 17 others, with the support of Nsos Kukul and Ndeka, the newly installed EXCO, have the task to work with the various institutions and groups, build up the village development, social, culture, and tradition. The day was graced with traditional dances.
From the northwest region, we move over to the southwest region of the country. The divisional officer for Limbe 2 subdivision has appreciated efforts of villagers or natives of Lower Bwando village as kingmakers unanimously chose Prince Ngalengumba Bruno to be the next heir to the throne. The position has been vacant since April 6, 2021, as Komonorimbum tells us in the following report.
Prince Ngalengumba Bruno is the chief designate of Lower Bwando village. He was designated over the weekend by 9 kingmakers after his elder brother and his uncle withdrew from the race. Initially, 3 persons tendered their candidacy to contest the Lower Bwando throne, which became vacant since April 6 after the demise of late Chief Michael Esuke Efwe the Seed. During the consultative talks, Prince Nabeke Ngumba decided to withdraw his candidacy in support of his junior brother, Prince Ngalengumba Bruno, leaving him to contest with his uncle Prince Esuke Efwe William. The struggle did not take long, as Prince Esuke Efwe William also decided to surrender his candidacy in favor of Prince Ngalengumba Bruno, whom he personally presented to the administrative authorities of Limbe 2 subdivision as the designated chief of Lower Bwando village.
I feel so happy and privileged, and I also believe the reason why the kingmakers stood behind me was because of the confidence and trust they have seen in me. We have a major project that is pending, creating of a motorable road leading from Bobinde down to Upper Bwando village. That's the first project, major project in mind.
Addressing villagers, the divisional officer for Limbe 2 subdivision, Sech Meke Albert, congratulated kingmakers for their level-headedness and for exhibiting a spirit of oneness. He called on other villages in Limbe 2 subdivision to emulate the example of Lower Bwando village, which for a very short time since the demise of their chief has succeeded in designating a new chief.
I'm satisfied with the choice of the kingmakers because in their conscience, with their responsibilities, they have come out with a young person who is able to represent their village, who has all the capacities to be a good leader for this community. He has been working for a long time beside his grandfather, whom he is replacing today, and we think that he has learned enough in order to continue on the right track for the development of this village.
The consultative talks took place under the watchful presence of Fako chiefs, who were elated with the manner in which the exercise was conducted.
And also the divisional officer who gave the opportunity for us to come in as an advisory officer, and which the children did not hesitate. They did everything they could do, went down to their knees to accept our advices to them. And eventually that we have exhibited a lot of maturity in this exercise, which makes us expose and tell the story of a Fako man.
Chief Ngalengumba Bruno will have as mission to bring development to Lower Bwando village, with roads, water and electricity being the main need of the local population.
Officials from Egypt and Cameroon have been meeting since yesterday here in Douala to talk on the need for the private sector to deepen their engagement in order to make the area more fluid. They opened talks on free trade in Africa and obstacles that limit development, good trade policies, and how to strengthen productive capacities. Etapa Content covered this event and compiled the following.
Si l'apport du secteur privé est très important dans le succès de la zone de la libre-échange en Afrique, la nécessité d'approfondir leurs engagements et leur participation active sur l'initiative s'impose. C'est ce qui était la ligne directrice numéro 1 du panel qui réunissait les officiels égyptiens, dont le service commercial, la Tiyarifa Bank, entre autres, et ceux des Camerounais, comme la SEC Cameroun, le ministre du Commerce, parmi tant d'autres personnalités.
Que le Cameroun se développe, parce que le secteur privé justement est le moteur de la croissance. C'est pour ça que l'État doit accompagner le secteur privé, mettre un cadre favorable, entreprendre certaines démarches pour l'accompagner pour qu'il devienne le champion. Parce que si nous avons un secteur privé en capacité de développer, comme on décuple rapidement.
Le deuxième centre d'intérêt était focalisé sur les principaux obstacles qui freinent le développement de la ZLECAf.
Si vous n'aviez pas les défis, vous n'existeriez plus. chaque jour, on a des défis, on les adresse. Le gouvernement est là pour que tout se porte bien dans ce pays, qu'on ait tout soin et que tout se porte bien. Les visas, je ne pense pas qu'on ait des problèmes de visas. Je pense que le Cameroun est l'un des pays où l'entrée sur son territoire est plus facilitée.
Au regard de ces problèmes, de bonnes pratiques ont été présentées en vue d'élaborer les politiques commerciales et de renforcer les capacités productives.
La mise en place concrète des investissements égypto-camerounais avec l'accompagnement du gouvernement camerounais dans tous les secteurs du développement. Les possibilités d'investissement sont énormes et davantage de partenariats sont nécessaires pour entrer dans une nouvelle phase de transformation du développement bilatéral, sachant que les économies africaines demeurent solides.
De la pause déjeuner au Best Western Plus Hotel à Prométhal, en passant d'abord à la Pasta, ce forum d'Africa Development Club va se terminer ce mardi 6 juin par une visite des entreprises sur le terrain. En rappel, l'Africa Development Club est une plateforme qui réunit les communautés économiques du continent avec pour objectif la mise en relation, l'identification d'opportunités d'investissement et de partage d'expériences. Cette initiative a vu le jour depuis 2010.
Let's now join Alphonse Quinn for striking events or stories from the African continent.
Au Nigeria, dans le nord-ouest, précisément dans l'état de Kaduna, hommes et femmes se sont réunis au lycée de Bethel dans l'attente de nouvelles des enfants disparus. Au total, 140 enlevés par des hommes armés. Il s'agit du troisième cas de kidnappage dans la localité de Kaduna ces 3 derniers jours. Selon la police, les sources locales affirment que de leur côté, 15 personnes ont été enlevées, dont 2 infirmières et leurs bébés. En outre, 7 personnes ont été tuées dimanche soir dans les attaques sporadiques, selon Samuel Aroua, chargé de la communication au sein du gouvernement de Kaduna. Un état de choses qui a poussé le président nigérian Muhammadu Buhari à ordonner lundi à l'armée, à la police et aux services de renseignement d'œuvrer à la libération rapide de toutes les victimes enlevées selon communiqué de ces services. Un mandat d'arrêt international a été émis contre Karim Keïta, fils de l'ex-président de la République Ibrahim Aboubakar Keïta, par Interpol à la demande du juge d'instruction de la commune 6 dans le cadre d'une enquête sur la disparition du journaliste d'investigation Barima Touré qui travaillait pour l'hebdomadaire Bamako, le Phoenix, disparu depuis 2016. Selon les dires de sa famille et du directeur de publication, il aurait été enlevé, torturé et tué après plusieurs mois de détention. Rappelons que Karim Keïta a toujours fermement démenti toute implication dans la disparition du journaliste et avait porté plainte en 2019 contre le directeur de publication et un journaliste de la radio. Au Burkina Faso, l'armée affirme avoir neutralisé 7 membres d'un groupe islamiste ayant tué au moins 11 policiers et 2 militaires dans une embuscade étendue le 21 juin dernier dans la région du centre du Burkina. Dans un communiqué, les forces de maintien de l'ordre ont indiqué qu'il s'agit d'une opération d'opportunité dénommée Bélier, menée du 28 juin au 21 juillet 2021 dans la localité de Madou, province de Samatanga, par des forces spéciales et de l'unité d'intervention de la gendarmerie nationale.
In sports, Cameroon's domestic league resumes in full this Wednesday, July 7, 2021, with fascinating games. Apogées in full shall host the Cotton Sport of Garoua, while Les Astres will clash with Canon of Yaoundé. More of this with sportsman Henry Wana in the following report.
The long wait for Cameroon's domestic league to finally resume in full action is now over, after the government of Cameroon, through the Ministry of Sport and Physical Education, paid in the yearly due government subvention of 560 million francs to the clubs. The tussle for the 2020-2021 football crown continues in full swing this July 7 with fascinating games on the menu. To the defending champions, PWD Social Club of Bamenda, there is much excitement returning to the green turf owing to the stakes surrounding the clash against Yafoot Football Club.
It's a game with high stakes. We know Yafoot is currently bottom of Pool A of the championship. The Abaka boys are the defending champions and are currently joined third in Pool A with 17 points, same number of points as Stade Rennais Football Club of Melon. Going into the game tomorrow, Coach David Pago and his boys know very well that they need to win and close the gap to the teams that are topping, especially to runaway leaders, Football Club of Baham. I mean, Yafutu are not coming in to just give the points to PWD because they too are conscious of the fact that they need to grab the win as quick as possible so as to escape relegation. So concerning the team news within the Abaka boys, I think all the players who started the season with the Abaka boys are going to be available for selection for the game tomorrow. Coach David Pago and his boys, they had their last training session prior to the game this Wednesday, this Tuesday morning at 7:30 a.m. at the Big Mancon Catholic School fee.
Pages don't fall against Kotosporo and the Canon of are the two games considered the top matches of Pool B in the day 10 fixtures. Union Sportive of Douala will have to wait a little longer till Thursday, July 8th to wrestle with Fetch Football Club to complete the scheduled games of day 10 in their pool.
And it is on that note that we end today's edition of Prime News on My Major Prime. Thanks for being a part. See you tomorrow, God willing, at 6:30 for another edition of Fifth Tata Bernu, coordinated the news, produced by EWANE Airline NOLINGA. My name is BLANCHE Peldrine Blanche King. Stay tuned at 7 p.m. You'd enjoy a fresh edition of Prime Hour with Kum Lunat and his analyst. Happy viewing and good night.